she's actually got about 3 of them. So my New Year's resolution was to get an app into the App Store, which is, you know, it's a noble effort. And I think that some of us would probably want to do that as part of like a goal in the next 12 months or so. So what this presentation is about in part what my experience has been in doing this, and how easy it can be. Like, we can think that it's kind of rocket surgery, but it isn't. So the end of this story is that my New Year's resolution, I reached it in February, so that's pretty good, you know. I've not lost too much weight, but I do have my little game to show for. So this is it. If you've not seen it, I tend to try and sell it at every opportunity because it's a paid app. Yeah, it's I wish they hadn't have released Draw Something. You know what I mean? Because I had this out about a week before, and there's a lot of crossover in what it does, but it's just basically, it's like Mr. Squiggle, like it draws something and you play against your friends and stuff like that. And like, I encourage you to download it because if you do, I get 70 cents, which is good. But the actual process of doing this, like it was a 3-week build, which isn't massive, you know. 2 weeks of that was dev and testing, and then there's 1 week that it takes it to actually get through to the App Store, which everybody's always very interested about. It's like, how long is that process and what's it like? And when you first put your app in there, you'll just think that there's someone somewhere in a dark room like assessing the work that you've done, but I don't think they do really. I think it's like 15 minutes. Have you done anything naughty? No, then off you go. Within the game itself, there's 70 drawings like this. Like, again, go and buy it. It makes it a lot easier if you've seen it. And in answer to any questions you've got, I drew all 70 of them because I do have a hidden talent that I like drawing. But the secret with this is that even though I can say that it took me 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever to build this app, my New Year's resolution was actually last year, and it failed miserably. I could not get the game together that I wanted to do because it just blew out of control. But in producing that game and failing miserably, like, it should have been a fantastic game. It should have been better than Angry Birds, and it should have made me a millionaire, meaning that I can leave this place rich. It didn't. But what I did learn was that the reason for a lot of the simplicity about this game is to just kind of strip it back so I can actually deliver the thing in the first place, you know, because that's the ultimate goal. It doesn't matter that I had a game that looked fantastic and had beautiful illustrations. None of you can buy it, none of you can play it, so like, who cares? And with this game, so you'll see it's very simple. There's no levels or anything like that, so it reduces the complexity in actually developing something like this. And yeah, so why did I choose to do this as my New Year's resolution? Like, I'm pretty comfortable in my job, or I was. Yeah, I had this as a goal for myself because really my motivations are that I don't want to become an old fart. Do you know what I mean? Like, if no one is doing apps, or if no one's kind of thinking about doing that, you really need to get into this area. You need to, and maybe not apps so much, but certainly things to do with mobile and tablets, because that's where the industry's going now. And you really need to do it. So I wanted to avoid being this old fart who just sits there and thinks, oh, it wasn't like this in my day. When you had desktop browsers, it was all about testing rigorously in IE6 or IE7, and you don't know what it's like to really develop a website. It's like, it doesn't matter anymore, because the world's changing. And in the last 10 years, I think 10 years ago when I was doing websites, like, everybody would be so excited. Like, you go to the pub, it's like, oh, you're making a website. It's like, yeah, I'm making a website. Oh, I've got this idea for you. It's about selling dog food online. And you kind of sit there and you'd nod. But the person was really enthusiastic and it was really nice. But in the last 10 years, that's probably gone away quite a bit, I think. But like a month ago, after this game has gone out for me, like, everybody's like into the work that I've done as part of this, and they've got their ideas and stuff, and it's exciting again. You know? There's passion. So I believe that the world is going mobile, which, you know, it's not a new idea. So I think it's part of my motivations for this as well was that I started to realise what was happening in the outside world. So we've got things like CSS3, and we've got things like responsive design, and we've got progressive enhancement, which has been around forever and a day. All these things are around us, and really, you can let them pass you by because you're so busy battling with things like IE7 that you're going to miss out a little bit on what these other things are. And so again, my motivations for doing this game was that I could let all that stuff go and I could just do something which allowed me to play with all these new technologies and like enhance my skills. Yeah, so these things that we talk about, like things like Backbone and Zepto, they're all building blocks to what makes an application that you can deliver. Actually, I missed an important point in what this app is. I'm very sorry. It's built in PhoneGap with HTML5 and CSS. I'm sorry I didn't say that first, because it would have been, probably put it into a bit of context, you know, because that's my specialty. Apologies. So in the game that I've produced, once you download it and pay for it and give me 70 cents, you'll see that the illustrations are like a combination of SVG and Canvas, and they work on iPad 1, and performance is very good. And CSS3 for a lot of the effects. It's a universal app, which means that the same code base that I've produced there will work on both the iPad and also on the iPhone as well, all from the same thing. You know what I mean? Like it's just smaller, and so that's totally in the world of responsive design. So I think I've come across this quite a bit as well, is that you don't think that you can actually do this because it seems really alien and really complicated, but it's not. This is the secret, is that this stuff's really easy, and it uses the skills that many of us will have in this room already, but part of the problem is that when you're looking to do this, you think that you've got to download a million different SDKs, or you've got to go and get well, you probably do need to get a Mac to do this, but you don't necessarily need all those things, even though there's the presumptions that you do. And the way that I'm going to show you, which may seem like a little bit of a, I think some of you will think it's a cop-out. I think that you'll probably think it's a cop-out. Because the demo that I'm going to show you, that you can take home and you can kind of do it. It can make you feel a little bit like an imposter, because you're not downloading Android SDK, you're not downloading Xcode and all these things, you're not configuring these things, because basically it's very tricky to do those kinds of things, and really what you want to be doing is you want to be just producing the work that you want to do. You don't want to get bogged down with configurations and things, like it's just boring, and there's no need. So this is the demo bit. So wish me luck, because I'm not having much luck with the technology today, which is my own fault. So bear with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually go from having a series of HTML files to actually building 5 apps all in one go. This is where I'm going to show how bad I am with a Mac now. This is where I need hold music and stuff. It's going to blow your mind, seriously. You're just going to be like, oh my God, I just want to run out of the room now and I just want to build an app. Okay, thank you. So what is this? So I said before I use PhoneGap to build it. Now PhoneGap has this service that you can use just through a web browser where you can just submit the code that you've done in a zip file. You can also hook it up to GitHub or to SVN. And it will produce. So you've got iOS, you've got Android, you've got BlackBerry, WebOS and Symbian, and it will just go and build it for you. Like, how easy is that? I don't have to download any SDKs or anything. This is a live demo, people, so please. I want a round of applause when this works. This is where we can see what Mikhail's been downloading.
All that awesome stuff. Don't click on my port folder.
Still recording?
Yep.
Okay, so that zip file, what that contains is, if you've ever used Backbone, there's this example that everybody sees when they're first learning it, and it's a to-do list. So I've modified it slightly for PhoneGap, which just means that I've just made the widths a bit different, that's all. I'd like to say that I've rewritten it in some way to optimise it for something, but I haven't, because I'm very lazy at the end of the day. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to upload that. I feel like a magician. So that's been picked up by PhoneGap, and all those little clocks and things, they just mean that there's a million hamsters working their asses off to build it in all those different formats. Eventually it will come back to me, and this is where the Android bit is as well, people. It will come back with a QR code in all of these spots, and you can basically scan that with your phone, and it will install the app that we've done. So if you've got an Android phone, and you may be able to do it from over there, but you'll be able to install it. So there we go. So basically you can scan that, and it will install. This is going to be a really bad demo. Yeah? Does it work?
Well, I can see there's one blur. Let's get close. Is the last one?
Yeah, well, it's in the way I control the presentation.
There we go.
Yeah. Do you know what I just realised? I've not actually tested that this works on Android. So I apologise in advance. It definitely works on my phone. Might work for you. I don't know actually, because I've got yours there. Yeah, you do. Did it work? It should be a to-do list.
It's still downloading.
Yeah, mine's downloaded. It's just installed.
Does it work?
Come on, you can do it, David.
Yeah, so what's great about PhoneGap is that you don't have to be savvy with a Mac, as you can tell from my fantastic builds up. Yeah, so how goes that? Like, I think it's pretty good. And I've actually, as part of this presentation, that's a complete rip-off of something that we saw at an Adobe conference. And I thought that it was a really good demo, so I thought, God damn it, I'm going to do that the first chance I've got. And I did. Okay, so. It's okay, so I would hope that by now that you're thinking, get me out of here because I just want to go and play with this stuff now. And that's you know, that's what I want this to be. But when I was going through this, you can still have kind of little excuses that you'll have in your mind. And like you've just seen in that demo there, like I can build for things that I don't even have. And like in terms of WebOS, like nobody has, unless you went to Harvey Norman and spent $100 about 6 months ago. But with all these things that we do, like we've got the best excuse to buy like the best little toys to do these kinds of things. My house is now filled with Android devices and iPads and iOS, God knows whatever else. And now my girlfriend has no excuse to criticize my spending because I have an app in the App Store, which is great. And even with the whole Mac thing, I'm a PC person, I do apologise. But even there, I didn't want that to stop me from being able to do this kind of stuff. So I just jumped onto eBay and picked up like a cheap piece of hardware, and it gets me up and running. Because I still need to use a Mac to be able to do things like the certificates that you need to be able to install it. So the reason why nobody can install that on their iPhone is because you've got certain rules that you have to go through if you're doing it for the iPhone or the iPad. So the big question is, am I rich? Is this the reason why I'm leaving News? I've become like a multi-millionaire. Well, I haven't, which is a shame. But if you download it, like maybe it'll go to the top of the thing and make some money. But I've sold 400 copies of the game since 12th of February, I think it went out.
How many of those are your mum's?
Sorry?
How many of those are your mum's?
Well, there was a point where I could account for every single one that was being sold. And when it first went on sale, I knew how many was from Australia, and I could account for all of those. So when I got in, I told Vincent, who's one of our designers, and Lily off for not buying it because they weren't accounted for and they had iPads. So now they have it, which is good. Yeah, so even though it's only 400 copies, it's still people who have actually paid for something that I've done. I've conjured this thing out of thin air, and people are paying for it in Mexico and Azerbaijan and America and all those kinds of things, and that's pretty exciting, I think. And so, in terms of people wanting to run out of here and kind of do this kind of stuff, like, it can't get any more exciting than that. You know, that you can now be in a position where the things that you write people will actually pay for, and the only thing that's left to stand in your way is just to have the idea. And that is it. Any questions? Back, please, Mr. Bowman.
I was just wondering, like you mentioned last year compared to this year. Like last year, I think you were working on Corona. Is that right?
Yeah.
So is that, would you really go for like the web over a framework like that, or?
Depends what you want to do entirely. Like the game that I've produced there, I wouldn't choose to use Corona for that. So Corona allows you to do like physics-based games. Thanks for bringing that up. That's bad memories that I didn't manage to finish that game. But anyway.
No, sorry, I just, yeah.
No, I'm joking, I'm joking.
Was that the difference, or just your attitude maybe?
Just my attitude, yeah. I got attitude. Yeah, it was one of the big problems with the app that I was trying to produce last year is that I didn't really have much experience with using a Mac. I didn't have any experience doing stuff with a language called Lua. I didn't have like the necessary design skills as well, so I really bit off way more than I could possibly chew. So this year's version of last year's New Year's resolution was strip it all back and get it out the door, and that happened. Anybody else?
Did you run into any sort of weird performance issues or anything like that where you had like, I don't know, memory issues or?
Not with this game, and with some of the projects that we've done on news, that's been one of my specific areas of interest, so it is something that I've been looking at quite closely, but with this game there wasn't really, well there were no memory problems. I was very nervous in putting it out on so many devices when it finally went out onto the phone because of it being like lower resources, but it actually runs quite well. But you know, buy it and then you'll
Plans for next app?
I have many, too many. Yeah, I don't know. I have some really bad ideas that really should never be apps at all. But probably another game. I've always enjoyed producing games, so it'll probably be something else. But keeping it simple again, and staying with PhoneGap again, because it's quite enjoyable. It's good to transfer your skills to something that can seem like it's really out of your reach, but it's not at all.
Do you have any kind of connection to any kind of server anywhere, or it's all
No, all self-contained. So again, as part of the decisions in keeping the game simple, no communication with anything outside of the app, just because it just adds complexity that you don't need.
Sorry, just another question. Did you just use PhoneGap just purely to have like a native wrapper, or were you using any of the functionality?
No, just as a wrapper. So while another goal with this was that we've been doing quite a bit of work with PhoneGap on news.com.au, and I wanted to go through the process of releasing an app just to get that experience, so I could be a bit more comfortable in what we were doing within the team as well.
Can you explain a little bit more about how the drawing actually happens? So
No.
I've got it on.
So the drawing happens. So one of the things that I learned when I tried to do the game last year was that the real killer in any game is the level design. So one of the first things I did with this is I made that really, really simple. So there's no levels, but there's lots of drawings. So each of the drawings that you'll see when you buy it for 70 cents, or for $1 on the App Store, is produced in SVG, and that's then converted to paths that Canvas understands, and then output it to the browser. So it goes through a couple of steps to finally reach the end user, but I found that approach gave me like good performance across the board.
And it seems to choose paths within that SVG at random to
At random,
yeah.
yeah, that's right. Just to mix it up for the game to make it a bit more interesting, because as soon as you've seen those drawings a couple of times, you know exactly what they're going to be, but it tries to trick you a bit. So I'll try my best to trick you. We'll see. But you know, for 99 cents. Anybody else? No. Yes, but.
When's the Android version out?
Well, you can get an Android version now. It's very
I have the
buggy,
Android version.
and it's free. Like, what more do you want? You
I
can have a
want
shitty free version.
A non-shitty free version?
I don't know. I've got to stop spending time on doing this app at the moment because it's killing me. Socially, it's killing me.
How much free time are you going to have very soon?
Well, I'm gonna have to.
So storage storage component? Is it all just local storage, or?
There's a little bit of local storage there's some local high scores in there, but the actual, all of the paths and the SVG and everything is just bundled up as part of the application. So any request that you would be doing to a web server, if it was a web page, you're just doing locally within PhoneGap itself, but the actual code that you would use is exactly the same. Yeah. Thank you very much.